Well, hello out there. How's everybody doing today? That was Groovin High, Dizzy Gillespie. Mark Wilkinson from Dallas, Texas, and Andrew. Thanks for joining you guys. And Jim and Kim. And we're off to kind of a weird beginning because our internet is screwing up. It keeps going down. So if things end in the middle of something here, it's it's the internet. I don't know what the hell's going on. We have the best service available in the area and the best program, and yet it still screws up. So how do you explain that? Be sure to tell your subscribers about Puffers of Pismo gig with Julie Kelly. Oh, okay, Lee. Yeah. On Sunday, February 20th. Well, thank you for reminding me. East and West Coast, clear of snow here in Florida. Good. Leo, North Dakota, and the Netherlands. Peter, hey, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate you guys coming in. So here we are. Yesterday was a sad day. Yesterday, we lost Joe Diorio, and Joe is... for many of you, you probably don't know who he is, but if you're into jazz guitar, you probably do. Joe was a stellar guitar player and innovator in the guitar, on the guitar, and musically innovating. He played a lot of real difficult is that the right word? Yeah, licks and lines. It was just incredible what he could do. His technique was flawless and just beautiful. He played great lyrical lines as well when he wanted to, or he could be outside like crazy and outside the tonal center. So he was really, really something. There was only one Joe Diorio, and there probably will only ever be just one Joe Diorio. I was lucky enough to work with him on this book. It's called Fusion by Joe Diorio, and it was with Dale Zdenek Publications. I remember when Joe came to town, and I was working for Dale Zdenek Publishing, and Joe had an idea for a book, and so he came to the office, and there you have it. So as a special guest, shall we get into that? We have a good friend of mine, David Becker. David played with Joe quite a bit and did an album together with Joe. And so there's David. Can you everybody see him? There he is. Hi, Dave.
Hear me okay?
Okay, now I can. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so sad day, huh?
Very sad day, and I'm still trying to, compartmentalize everything. I mean, I spoke to Joe last Saturday. I knew that he was in the hospital, and we talked regularly, and I meant to call him on Tuesday because he got dialysis on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and those were days to get him because he wasn't too tired. But I missed Tuesday because I just got crazy stuff, and then I had a feeling, and then I got the call. So
yeah, gosh.
You mentioned our record. I'll pop that up for everybody. It's called The Color of Sound, and it's a very special record because it's available digitally and also hard copy. It's on Acoustic Music Records. This is the last recording that Joe actually did before his stroke in 2005. And when we did the album, we had the musical gods with us that day because it's probably one of the best records that he and I have ever done. And Joe, and that's not my words, those are Joe's words. He spoke very highly of that record, and I'm very grateful and was always grateful that we got it done. But we sat down, and it wasn't just playing tunes. I wrote a few things. We improvised a lot of things. In fact, I posted something yesterday on Facebook. The very last tune on the record is called In a Minute. And it's Joe and I doing sort of a drone thing. I'm playing a 9-string, he's playing his guitar. And there's a string line in there that I overdubbed, and that line came out of just what we had played together. after I heard us playing this thing, whatever it is, that thing came out, and I think it's a great way to, say farewell to Joe. And it's because I basically said, I'll see you in a minute. I can't tell you what my relationship with Joe meant to me over the years, not just only as a mentor, but as a friend. And one of the things that Joe shared with me, we did a road tour together in Europe in '99, and then we did the album, and I would see him as often as I could when I would get out to Connecticut. But one time he said, David, I've never had a friend like you, and that meant so much to me.
Oh, that is nice. Wow, that's beautiful.
Everybody loved Joe. Joe had many, many friends around the globe, and you included, and he loved everybody and was loved by everybody. But I just felt very special that we had a very unique relationship, because he knew me. I knew him 42 years. I met him, I was 18.
Oh, and, yeah. Wow.
So it was really, he got to see me grow up. And
did you go to GIT?
I did. I went in 1980, and it was, one of the early classes.
Right,
and
okay.
Joe there, and it's funny because on the album there's 2 tunes called How Old Are You and How Old Do I Look? And those are improvised pieces that we did. And that's the first thing Joe Diorio said to me. He said, how old are you? Because when I was 18, I looked like I was 12. Yeah. And how old do I look? Yeah. So we kept some of the humor in that. But there's a great version of Stella by Starlight on there that's about 8 minutes long. And I remember being in the studio at Richard Smith of USC, coming out to watch us record. I didn't know he was there, but I invited him to the studio, and a guitar player from Sicily came as well. And Joe and I finished that take, and I looked up in the booth, and there was Richard and this guy jumping up and down applauding. So,
well, Joe is just he's a stellar player, and his technique was just so flawless.
And like you said, he can play the most beautiful melodies. In fact, I wrote a tune called The Color of Sound, which is the title track, where he plays a really beautiful melody that I wrote for him specifically. And when I did the record, one of the things that we talked about off air was that sonically a lot of Joe's records were not the best. The playing was stellar by far, but the 2 records that I think represent Joe sonically the best, I would have to say The Color of Sound and the record that you worked on, Bonita.
That's right. This is it right here.
Amazing record. Don't know that record, guys. Get that record, because Joe plays. He plays 12-string on there, electric 12-string. He plays with a piano player, which he never did before. Carl Schroeder, who was a great guy that was at GIT for many years. Of course, the great Jim Plank on drums, and Bob Magnuson.
Bob Magnuson, and they did a version of Bloom Dito that was just
ridiculous.
Off the, geez.
I think if you go to YouTube, a student somewhere, I don't know, in France or Italy, transcribed that solo of Joe's.
Oh yeah, there is transcribed solos of Joe's hanging around there. I don't know which. But on this album, I remember with Dale, and I called Dale Zdenek yesterday because of Joe, we had talked, and I hadn't talked to Dale in a long time. And he reminded me that, the reason we did this album is, I say we, I mean, I just worked for Dale, but I ended up mixing it, which I thought was kind of neat. But was to give them a little more of a broader appeal. And, Joe was so out there that, my gosh, it was hard on the ears sometimes. You really have to be an astute musician to understand what he's trying to do, or what he is doing, not just trying, and yourself included. And so we thought, let's try to do an album that would give them a little more broader appeal. And I think it did do that in the beginning. It was getting airplay a lot, and then it just kind of, I don't know, Dale ended up selling the company and stuff, and things went south. I don't know what happened to the record. I think it's on CD. I went on Amazon yesterday, and the CD version of it was for sale for $60.
Wow. Okay. I think there's digital versions on iTunes, but I'm not sure. I'd have to ask Dale. Maybe you could find out. But I know Joe said that they had done CDs of it. But
Yeah.
the thing is that Joe, for those who don't know and those who do know, I mean, he had such a big influence on so many people. I mean, and there's a version of one of the tunes that he recorded on that record, which is an original of Joe's, with Ira Sullivan and Jaco Pastorius from
Yeah.
1973 in Florida, Miami, when they were playing it with Ira's group. And, his influence on Pat Metheny, I mean, Pat Metheny even said that Bright Size Life, he should give Joe a royalty for that song because it's classic Joe Diorio to the nth degree. I agree totally. So many people, and not just the jazz guys, a lot of rock guys. Like I just did a podcast with Alex Skolnick, who was known in the rock world, and also Steve Lynch, who was also known in the rock world. They took stuff out of Joe's book, Intervallic Designs, to put in their solos. So I mean, it's very, very unusual that a jazz guy of that caliber would have such a big impact on not only the jazz guys but also the rock guys. I think that's a testament to Joe's contributions to the instrument.
Yeah, that's a really a good point. Yeah, he did influence a lot of people, and he played with his influence, if I recall correctly, was Eddie Harris. He played with Eddie Harris a lot.
Played with Sonny for a while, and Wes Montgomery. If you guys check out YouTube, there's an interview with Wes Montgomery from I think 65, 66, some jazz show. And the guy asks him, have you heard any young guitar players that you think are the next guy? And the first guy he mentions is Joe Diorio.
Yeah.
And Joe told me that, they spent a lot of time together. When Wes would come to Chicago, he would stay at Joe's apartment, and they would play all night.
Yeah.
And he just, he was very fond of Joe, and obviously Joe of Wes. But I think when Wes died, that gave Joe sort of a perspective about, well, what am I going to do on the guitar? Because Wes Montgomery was like the pinnacle, and that's when he moved to Florida and started getting into the sort of intervallic thing with Ira and people like that. Although he had been exposed to it through Eddie Harris and through the guys.
Freedom Jazz Dance.
Yeah.
That one song kind of set the wheels in motion.
And the Skleminski book, which he told me that.
Right. Yeah.
Because Eddie told him about it, and all the guys were buying it. And one night, he said he couldn't make heads or tails out of it until one night he took it off the shelf before a gig, and he found one little example that he could hear how that worked harmonically, and he went and used it on the gig, and that opened up a lot of doors for him as well. So.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, talking about him playing with Wes, I just learned yesterday, too, from Dale, that there's a recording of him and Joe Pass playing together at GIT in an office just by themselves.
Yeah. I was there. I saw that. I watched that live.
Yeah.
I saw Joe Pass up close. I was a student, and Joe came to do a workshop, and then he just hung with Joe. That's the thing. When Joe was teaching at the time that I was a student, it was a very small class. So you could just walk in anywhere, and I used to hang with him all the time. In fact, Joe never really gave me any handouts. I bought the Intervallic Design book, and then he just showed me stuff, and I was more of an audio guy where I could hear things and kind of, internalize it. Like that one lick in that tune we were talking about from Bonita. I took that and I wrote a tune called Blues for Brother Brew, which is it's based on that line. So that's the first track of the album, but that was definitely Joe Diorio too. I mean, as far as so.
Yeah, he I think that was called Tella Sunshine.
Yeah, Naima Reb, and he wrote that with a guy in Florida that he used to play with. But that's Joe's line, and that's in 7 actually. That one line, but he named it after the guy's kids because they used to dance when Joe and he would play guitar together. These two little girls. They were one of them, Tala Sunshine was the other. They had those interesting names back then. So
yeah. Well, gee whiz, man. I don't know what to say anymore.
I mean, there were so many stories I could talk about Joe. We toured together the very first time and only time Joe played in the UK. We played together. That was a tour we did in '99, and I have some video footage of that actually that I found on a VHS. I had it digitalized, but the audio's not great. But there's some pieces that I'm going to try to post on social media, and one of them is we did a workshop together in London, and Joe is playing some drone kind of Indian stuff, and I'm playing with a little card on my guitar, this tabla sound. And it's very cool because it was just impromptu. We were at the end of the workshop. Joe just looked at me and said, "Do that thing you do with the card." And so I started playing this little beat thing, and he started. It's really cool. I'm going to try to sharpen the audio up a tad if I can and put that up there. There's a few other things as well too, but I will always cherish the time with Joe, and I'm so grateful. And I always told him, I said, wherever I go and whenever I play, there's a big piece of you there.
Oh, isn't that the truth? Yes. Likewise, Joe. It's funny, because I worked on this book with him because I worked at the company there, and I recorded all the solos, on in my little recording studio, and I thought it was very a few of the things that were very eye-opening to me, and that was that, Joe he was totally into improv.
Yes.
Totally. And so for him to write something and play it the same thing twice sometimes was challenging, especially some of these things. And I thought, this is really cool that he has taken his ideas and he's written them down, and now he's developing his ideas, and that's how you make your voice. It doesn't always come out of the sky. You have to actually think about what the hell you're doing.
Joe, even after his stroke, he wasn't able to play guitar the way he played before, but he still wrote things. In fact, I just talked to his wife, Tina, and he's got a room at the house there that's got tons of papers of things that he's written in the past 20 years. And I told Tina when the time is right, I'll probably come to the house and help her sort through all that material. And I know there's tons of tapes, and I don't know how much stuff he has from the Ira days or with Jocko and things like that, but I know there's lots. And the Joe's left behind is enormous, not only through the students and through the people like you and me that had been in his presence, but also the things he's written down. And he did do that. In fact, he would always write things. Every day he would write something new and work on something. Even though he physically wasn't able to play as well, the ideas were just coming out. And we would have lengthy conversations. I'd get on my cell phone and get the speaker up and start playing things back and forth, and we talk about things. And he was a consummate, student of the art for sure.
Yeah, and some fella just mentioned about his Giant Step book.
Yes.
I thought he's got a book about that thick on soloing over giant steps, and it's like, holy jeez.
A student came to him one day and said, "Hey, Joe, can you help me with Giant Steps?" And the funny thing is that Giant Steps is a tune that we all want to play, and it's one that we tend to avoid.
I don't. I don't want to play it.
Joe said, it was never a tune he really thought of much, but when the kid brought it to him, he started writing things, and then eventually he had enough material for a book, and so he kept going and going and going, and that's how that thing came about. So.
Yeah. I sure hope somebody starts like an appreciation group like they do for Ted. Like somebody started for Ted.
I think somebody will, and if they don't, maybe I will, or maybe I'll see if somebody wants to do it together, because they should definitely. There's a few websites that for Joe, and I've tried to put a few videos up talking about our stuff and keep his legacy alive. But I think now that he's gone, I think there'll be more of an interest for just the things that he's done, because there's so much stuff that he did. I mean, he did a lot of records in Italy.
Yeah.
Like the early 2000s and 2006 or 5 when he had the stroke, which there's some good recordings. He did one with Mick Goodrick, and he did some duo, solo, and trio records. In fact, Steve Bagby is on one of the records that Steve played back in the day in Florida with Ira Sullivan's band. They go way back.
Yeah.
And then there's a really great record that Joe did with Ira. I think it's from probably 2002 or so. It's called The Breeze and I, and it's just Ira playing flute and Joe comping, and they're playing like bossa novas and really beautiful melodies. It's really an amazing record.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out. You know, Joe, I remember back when he was doing this book and stuff, and then during GIT even, he was struggling so much with making money, you know, because let's face it, he's an artist, and he wasn't out playing weddings,
No.
and he was an artist, and it's really rough. But you know, I think Joe, at the end of things, he was really touched so many people.
I know.
It's incredible how many people he has touched and influenced. And what could be better than that, really? You know, the monetary thing, you make some money and you spend it. But
well, I think he told me actually a couple of weeks ago, before he was in the hospital, we had a long conversation, and he told me, you know, David, he said, I'm okay. He said, he lived his life the way he wanted to, and artistic did everything he wanted to do, and you know, I think that says a lot, because the gift that he gave the world, and not just, you know, guitar players, a lot of musicians have influenced by him, and just his presence and his whole spiritual being had such a big impact. And I think he never really realized, and he told me, you know, I never realized how many people are out there that, you know, that know me and love me. But he said, wow, because he got lots of phone calls when he had a stroke and this and that from all over the world.
yeah,
I said, Joe, I said, everybody loves you. And I took a little video of him last time I saw him in Connecticut, and I posted it. And I can't tell you how many people responded to that. And of course, I posted when he passed yesterday, and I'm getting tons and tons of response from everybody all over the world. And if anybody has responded to my post and I haven't acknowledged, I'm acknowledging it now. I'm going to make a little video to commemorate Joe and talk a little bit about it and thank everybody for their outpouring. And I relayed that to his wife, Tina. So, but yeah, I mean,
that's nice.
As far as that whole aspect of being a wealthy man, Joe was by far a very wealthy man in that respect.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember when he got this guitar, that Benedetto. Bob built it for him, and